Hey everybody, it's Ryan from Pie Records, and I'm here with the Milk Lizards. How are you guys?
Hi,
Doing good, thank
we're
you.
good. We're great.
Very happy to have you on finally, after trial and error and mixing our schedules. I know it's time to make time hard to make time, especially when there's multiple people around.
Yeah.
But first, I want you to introduce yourselves and what instruments you play.
Yeah, I'm John and I play bass.
I'm Stephen. I play the guitar.
Awesome, awesome. And where are you guys from in the UK?
We're from right where we are now, Sunderland, which is on the northeast coast of England.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So you guys just had a release, correct?
Yeah,
Yep, yeah, that's right.
we
Yes.
released a 7 inch, yeah.
But that's not your first.
No, we're 2 albums.
Two albums and an EP, few compilation tracks, and then recently just the 7 inch.
So when did you guys start playing?
We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
It was about, I think it was about October or November 2013 when we
Yeah.
got the original lineup, because originally we were four-piece with two guitars, and it was just all surf cover, all instrumental covers. So a lot of surf, but sometimes like a bit of like some old Las Vegas grind tunes, things like that. But it was all, there was no singing obviously, and they were all covers. So all the hard parts had been already done.
Yeah.
So we'd always wanted to do it. Then we just thought, oh, we'll do it. So the first few gigs we had was just all the covers, and then things just life got in the way, and that lineup kind of drifted apart. Then after a couple of years apart, you start getting the itch again, and then got back together, just three of us. But this time, obviously, we had to strip it back a bit because we only had the one guitar, and then we just started adding original tunes in every now and then until we got the tunes we've got now. Like,
That was good and bad going down to one guitar though, because we a lot of the I think that forced us to write songs. I mean, Steve's the mainly writes the songs. I've written a few, but I think that kind of, because some of the covers we were doing were all dependent on two guitars. So when we went down to one guitar, it meant the bass was going to be louder. The bass did a bit more work, and it kind of, and the songs that we were playing before didn't really fit. So we had to write some songs that did fit with the three piece really.
so I went from being quite traditional to just more rock.
Yeah.
Because the guitar, like, instead of being like very clean, two very clean guitars and like delicate bass, it went from being like really loud guitar and really loud bass to fill the gap that the second guitar wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, and the drums as well. Of course, the drums got a bit more exciting. So, Grassy, who was the drummer before Ben, we've got Ben, and he's been in the last 3.5 years,
Something like that. Yeah.
and then Grassy before him was in the band for about 3 years. Oh no, sorry, well he was in from the beginning, and then he was in when we were three piece for about 3 years, I think, and then Ben took over. And Ben and Grassy were quite similar drummers in a way, very very busy. Although Ben had more of a metal background, didn't he? So we had to kind of rein him in a bit. No, you can't have your double bass pedal and that sort of thing.
So we in my band when I was in college, we had a drummer who had a metal background. He brought his double bass pedal, and we were like, oh no, none of that here, none of that here. And he was he just chuckled about it.
Yeah, I think Ben gets it now, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I think at first I'm looking as if Ben's there. He's not hiding behind the amps, but obviously if I talk to him, he's always there. Yeah, I think Ben, I think he originally stepped in to help us out because we had a couple of gigs coming up when Grassy decided to leave the band, so we didn't want to cancel the gigs. So Ben kind of came in as he was going to be a stopgap till we found somebody more permanent, because he was moving to London with his wife, and then turned out his London move fell through, and he was staying in the northeast of England because it's a good sort of 300 miles between us and London, so you couldn't really be difficult to commute in a band that sort of distance, So it turned out those guys were staying in the northeast still. So he said, I'm happy to become a full-time member of the band. So we embraced that, and that was where his kind of journey started. I mean, I didn't have. Steve's always been into surf, and his previous bands, they had surf elements, and some of the songs we play now were from your first band, weren't they?
written a long time ago.
Kind of brought them forward into this band. I didn't have any of that sort of background, so it's kind of been a journey, the three of us doing that. And now we kind of, the way we work on songs together, Steve will come in with either a demo or an idea, and then the three of us work on it and put our own spin on it. And Ben's now at the stage where, sometimes we can say just play a beat over this, and he'll kind of ad lib and make it up as we go. Sometimes
Play the surf beat.
Yeah, play a straight surf beat. That's what we want.
So, what is the biggest challenge from writing when you were a 4-piece to translating that writing into a 3-piece?
I think with anything instrumental, the hardest part of writing an instrumental is actually writing an instrumental song and not just writing a song without words. So, like, obviously, when you have a song, you've got verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, and there's a structure. But an instrumental, a song without words in that structure would be boring and predictable. So, writing an instrumental song is a lot harder because it needs to be constantly interesting.
Yeah,
in my opinion, like,
yeah,
because you haven't got the words, you haven't got that hook of the chorus to draw people in. So you need the changes to come, the different bits of the song needs to always be moving forward just to keep it investing. And that's the hardest part of not just anyone can write a song and not put words on it and call it an instrumental, but that's not an instrumental. It needs to be invested, in my opinion.
I mean, something we developed over the years was the kind of stops, and we feel like that was where we just kind of different stop. I mean, obviously we're all counting our heads at times. A lot of it's lots of practice, but without a singer, you haven't got the prompt for where you are in the song. So a lot of the songs tend to be quite short. I think the shortest song we do is 1.5 minutes,
Something like that.
and then I think the longest song we do is probably max
2 minutes.
2 minutes. But the idea, some of them are quite explosive. So right from the start, like Butcher, which was on the last album. Actually, it was on both albums, wasn't it? We did it. So it's the one song that we put on both albums because we decided we had it on the album when Grassy was in the band, the first album, Planet Beach. And then when Ben joined, we recorded Warm.
We changed it a lot, so we needed
the song itself had evolved a lot. So we just thought it was quite primitive on the first one, and we even though we pride ourselves on sort of recording live, that was one of the very few songs that the bass was sort of dubbed at the end, which we never liked doing that. It never sounded right. It just didn't have the life and vibrancy that the song has when it's played live. And I kind of feel like it's my favorite track of the set when we play live, because it's kind of right from the start. It's just in there fast, the guitar and the drums and the bass, but just all sort of, it's a really stabby song from the start. And then it's got lots of stops in it where you just, somebody watching it who's not heard us before would just not anticipate the different parts of the song where we just completely stop and start again. And so that's taken years to kind of get it polish it to where it is now. That is a tune that we can kind of, you can move it around in the set, and it's kind of, if we feel like some of the songs are maybe it's depending on the gig we're playing. If we're playing with some sort of louder, faster bands, it's usually far up on the set list to keep the energy going through, or we might put it towards the end to kind of bring the set back up towards the end. So it's kind of it's one of those tunes that's just evolved over the years. So if you listen to it on Planet Beach and then you listen to it on Warm, it's almost like two different songs, completely different speed as well, isn't it? I think
so. A lot faster.
It's probably twice the speed now.
So I was listening to Warm earlier this morning, and I noticed there's a few genre type influences that kind of slip in there. A little bit of dirty guitar. You want to talk about some of the elements that you use to kind of embellish your surf music?
But it's just ever since I've started playing like guitar and getting into music, the philosophy is always big was play it hard, and that's all. Like, even though surf's quite like, obviously it's twangy and picky, still gotta lash it.
Yeah.
So like, and then I'm still a fan of obviously big rock bands. Like, I love Bon Jovi, Aerosmith. So like all those big bands, like bringing little sense of that. And not that I'm saying our album sounds like Bon Jovi, but you listen to Bon Jovi since you were 12, 11, and Guns N' Roses, that sticks with you. And elements do creep in, like the big chords, big drums, and even on one of the songs, it sounds daft to say, but it was like a black metal influence. Like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't think it at all, but like just some of the techniques, because like John said, we're like very much into recording it ourselves and mixing it and doing everything ourselves, and obviously that's like quite a black metal philosophy as well. And some of their techniques where the songs like just cut at the end, so like little studio tricks like that have crept in. And again, like when John was talking about Butcher, some of the stops are influenced by like 80s thrash metal, so like not like an overriding theme, but like every now and then little things you hear something, you're like, oh, that sounds a bit like, you know, I know where it's come from and what I listen to, where other people might be like, black metal, what's he talking about? But
and that was something as well. We like the first album, we recorded it in a studio, and it felt and sounded like a studio recording. Whereas because we pride ourselves on the live performances, that we wanted to record the next album as live as possible. So it literally is, the vast majority of the songs on it are literally us just in here. Well, actually, we did downstairs, didn't we? The big room downstairs, because there's a bigger room downstairs in the rehearsal studios. So we just borrowed that room for a couple of days to record it. And then so we recorded it. Was it like the January, February, something like that?
I think it was January 2020, and then obviously in March everything went to pot, and no one would leave the house. So we had this album recorded but not mixed.
Yeah.
So we were trying to mix it, emailing it, and it just wasn't working. It was a nightmare.
We did get there in the end, but it meant we didn't have the equipment, we didn't have sort of studio monitors to mix on, and so we just we decided just like we need it mixed and loud, and it just needs to sound good if you're listening in a car, if you're listening on an iPhone, this sort of thing. So we just kind of tested it on all of those different devices. But the philosophy we have is, minimal amount of effects. That's the other thing. Make the guitars and make the amplifiers just make the sound. So, Steve's got, what do you put through for like 1 or 2 pedals?
Put the hardest ever.
It's
all
maybe
amp, again, that goes that's like a Steve Albini influence, where I think Steve Albini's on record saying you can't polish a turd. Like you have your sound at source, and that's the sound you capture. Because afterwards, like I know people in the past who've recorded clean guitars and then distorted them in post, and to me that's just like, that's sacrilege. You just can't do that. Like you need to get the sound at the source and capture that, so you don't have to do anything afterwards. So that's like one of my big philosophies in like recording music, is to get the sound at the time, so you don't have to EQ it and do all that stuff afterwards, because that just saps the life out of it.
And Steve's amp is quite a strange amp. It's an old FAL from the 70s. It's a solid state amp, but it's so loud, isn't it? But it only gets the perfect sound when the volume is at a certain level. It gets a natural crunch, doesn't it? And the first album is recorded with that, and when we play live, we can't, like, if anyone tells us to turn it down, which is obviously the worst thing you can hear, is that we just know it's not going to have the crunch that we need. And in some venues, there's a place we play in Leeds, which is about 100 miles from here, in the centre of the country. They've got glass windows everywhere, so kind of you almost have to play on half volume, otherwise it's very, very loud. But it's such a shame when we play places like that, because we feel like we can't get that sound. We don't want to fall back to other amplifiers, quieter ones, or turn down, because it loses that kind of feeling. It doesn't fill the room. So it's kind of, Steve's amp is a massive part of the sound now. So it's like this big old amp that it's a 2-man lift, but it just sounds great. It does the job, and then it does everything that we need with minimal amount of effects put in there, and it records beautifully as well, doesn't it?
But
so
last Saturday we played with the Devo tribute band.
Yeah.
Called We Are Not Devo.
Yeah, the only Devo tribute band in the UK, I might add.
But it was a place in Newcastle where we put our Surf Bonanza on. I think it's about a 300 capacity room, and like my amp just wasn't even mic'd up.
Yeah, they've got a big PA system. Everything, the drums, bass, everything else goes through the PA system. But the sound guy's like, I can't mic the amp up because it's just too loud. And the and it was still louder than everything else in the room. So it's like it's a fluke, isn't it? It's a complete fluke. We think the problem with the amp is, and we could do this on the rig rundown, is Steve replaced the speaker in it at some point, and we think it's it's too loud, the speaker for the amp.
Basically, I
And
didn't
that's
know
why
what I was doing. I was stuck a speaker in and wired it best I could, and it worked. So I left it.
It's like 100 watt. We don't know what brand it is, do we? It's not a Celestian or anything like that. It's and it's but it sounds great. And the worry is if we tinker with it too much, we might lose the sound from it. So it's kind of like we don't want to touch it. So we were thinking of for quieter gigs having him using another amp, like a Fender Deluxe, or we've got a Rock Pro 1000 there to try.
Because again, like talking about influences, I suppose that's like a mummy's philosophy.
Yeah.
Use the gear you've got, and like my amp was 20 quid.
20 pounds.
My guitar was 50 quid, and I've got a USA Fender Telly, which was like 500 quid, but my 50 quid guitar's the one I use because that's got the sound. So like it's like just use the gear you've got, and again it's just like that DIY philosophy. I suppose like it's embedded in me, and I'm trying to get it into these guys.
Yeah.
That's just the way I am, basically.
So how are the shows going now?
Really good. It was quite interesting because we pride ourselves on a really polished set and getting all the stops right, and it's quite an explosive set. It's about 30 minutes long. And we had some really good shows, and we played the Surf Bonanza, which we put on at a local venue. And we got there's I don't know if you've heard of Secret Admirer. They're a surf band from in Edinburgh. So we had those guys come down, and then the Atom Jacks from Brighton.
Oh, I know them.
Yeah, so they came up from Brighton. So they came up from the south coast. We were on the east coast, and then we brought down Secret Admirer from Edinburgh. So they came down as well, and it was a fantastic night. I mean, Secret Admirer, they're absolutely nuts. Those guys. I mean, they started drinking on the train on the way down.
I think they were drinking 9 o'clock.
So by the time they got to Newcastle, which is where the gig was, where the show was, they were just really drunk. But they sound fantastic when they're better when they're drunk. And the Atom Jacks are just, they're a bit like us, really, aren't they? They're quite they tour the country a lot. We tend to stay more in the northeast these days. We've played London and places before, but we're going to try and get a gig down there with those guys in Brighton. But it was a fantastic gig, and it's nice seeing new faces every time we put it on. It's the 3rd year we've done it. We had to pause it for COVID for that year, so we didn't do it that year. And last year and this year, they've both been great. So we're going to do another one next year, and it's nice seeing a steady increase in people who turn up, and we're just kind of breaking even financially on it. So we get to pay the bands, and we get to have a good party. But it's great, and then it's everybody. We never play gigs where it's just surf bands as well. So that's it's nice to do that, because we normally kind of get put on with rockabilly bands a lot, don't we? And that kind of scene, garage bands, which is great. We fit in with those guys, great. But it was nice to every now and again to do a pure surf show where everyone's all playing surf. We're probably the least traditional surf out of the 3 bands.
I think like in England, although have you saw the Surf Britannia compilation CDs?
No.
Oh well, there's 3 of them now. So it's just like, so there is a scene in England, and it's just surf bands from the UK, so like Ireland, Wales, and Scotland as well. But like, it's still not like American scene, because you see on all the forums and stuff, there's like surf gig.
Yeah.
Where here, it's like, so when we put it on once a year, it's a little bit of a novelty, because people are like, what's this like? So you try and make the posters look as summer as possible, and people do come literally, because I think they're intrigued, like Surf Bonanza, what's that mean? And so those gigs are going really well.
Yeah, and everyone loved it, and it gets a lot of people dancing. I think it's just that fundamental surf beat is people who've not heard it before, surf stuff. The first thing they say is it sounds like a Tarantino soundtrack or something like that. If they've never heard that sort of thing, so it's already in popular culture. It's already something people have heard before. They don't know that that's what it is, and when they hear it. Certainly we sometimes play Mizzaloo. It's not something that we play regularly, because it is a bit of a cliche, but it's still a tremendous tune, and we butcher it a bit, don't we? Because we
butcher everything.
We mix it with Malagueña, is how you say it. the sort of Spanish tune, and it works really well. So occasionally, we don't always have it on the set list, but occasionally, if it's going well and you've got people dancing, really enjoying it, it's a nice tune to end the set with. Certainly for people who you can tell it's like their first surf gig they've been to, you know, it's quite a nice way to kind of sign off, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much, guys. Before we go, I want to give you a chance to talk about your 7-inch and add anything that I might not have asked about.
Yeah, so well, the 7-inch, it's super limited edition because it's been released on Top 20 Records. So the philosophy for that is there's only 20 copies of every pressing. So it's just obviously super rare, the first pressing, and everything is done by hand. Like the guy hand presses the vinyls every copy, and like the covers are all hand screen printed. And obviously we recorded the music ourselves. We didn't go to the studio, and we mixed it ourselves. So everything, like obviously the hand numbered. So everything about it is just,
and it's
DIY.
mono as well. It's the
Yeah.
first release we've done in mono. We've done stereo. So we were a bit skeptical as to what it would sound like, but it sounds really good in mono. It just gives it more of a vintage vibe, doesn't it? And it sounds good, and it cuts some of the bass out to fit everything into that sort of mono mix. But it sounds really good. It sounds really big.
It's only been out for less than a month. I think we're down to about 2 or 3 copies left. So if we get rid of those, there'll be a second pressing.
Oh, nice. How are you satisfied with the pressing?
Oh, that sounds great. It looks great. It sounds great. And yeah, couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe do a pink vinyl. I'll be happier.
Pink vinyl.
Nice. Yeah. I love colored vinyl.
Yeah.
But over the moon with it, and it just sounds tremendous.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time, and I really enjoyed listening to your music and getting to know you. I've been looking forward to this interview for a long time, and I was glad we could finally get it done.
Yeah.
Excellent. Cheers. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Ryan.
All right. Take care.
Take care, man. See you later.
Bye.